Joining us now, Democratic Senator Sen Coons of Delaware. Senator, thank you for being here. This is not the first time you and I have spoken after a mass shooting, and you are deeply steeped in this issue, which is why I want to ask you, hearing Ken's report just now, what questions does that raise for you?
Well, as you know, Chris, one of the most deadly shootings in American history in a house of worship happened back in 2017 at the Sutherland Springs Baptist Church, where I think 26 people were killed by someone who was convicted. He was court-martialed as a member of the Air Force in a domestic violence-related incident, and that record didn't get uploaded to the NICS database, so he was not prevented from purchasing the weapons that he used to carry out that mass shooting. Senator Cornyn of Texas worked with Senator Murphy and me and others on a bill called Fix NICS that dealt with that issue. The mental health evaluation that you just described, that was just reported on your show about this shooter in Maine, suggests there are lots more areas where we need to do a better job. I'm encouraged to hear that Maine has a yellow flag law, but that means it requires both a court order and a determination by a medical professional that someone is a danger to himself and others. To have someone who is a trained military shooting expert hearing voices, telling his family that he was considering shooting up an Army Reserve Center, and then have his own military unit refer him for inpatient treatment should have been the sort of red flag that resulted in more active engagement and supervision. Look, Chris, there's tens of millions of Americans who are living with mental health challenges. Under President Biden, we invested $30 billion more in community mental health care. We need to be careful to not conflate mental health issues with the sort of fact pattern that led to this particular shooting. But it is demonstrably the case that we don't provide enough support and enough training for local law enforcement, for families, and for those going through mental health incidents in order to secure our communities against gun violence. This is a truly tragic incident in Lewiston, and the reporting that you've just shared suggests it could have been avoided.
Yeah, and I think it is important what you said about not conflating these things. We had an expert on who has done extensive studying of mental health issues, and there isn't always a direct through line to a mass shooting like this. So we're going to be careful, and I'm glad that you made that statement. But you've also led efforts to pass what most people consider common sense gun safety reforms. The polls show it. And it includes co-sponsoring legislation to ban high-capacity magazines. We learned this afternoon the suspect's firearm in Maine was legally purchased this year. When you look at the laws we have and that we don't have, and we don't have all the facts, but can shootings like this be prevented, Senator?
Look, I think we can be doing more. We are the only advanced, developed nation that has anything like the number of shootings that we have. We have way too many suicides by gun and way too many burglaries, armed robberies, and assaults by weapons of war, weapons that were designed by the military to be highly lethal. This particular weapon used in this shooting in Maine is exactly one such type of weapon, and they are very broadly owned and used throughout the United States. We have countries that have legal systems, cultural heritage similar to ours, like Australia or the United Kingdom, that have quite different practices in terms of supervision for mental health, background checks for gun ownership, training required to own weapons. I do think we could do a better job. The Second Amendment is a foundational right, critical to our understanding of the relationship between individuals and government and our society, and I respect and understand that. We could still do more, and we could still do a better job of protecting our communities and our children.
You are also on the Foreign Relations Committee, and so I want to, for just a moment, turn to the Israel-Hamas war, because also you just got back with a congressional delegation to Israel, where not only did you meet with Israeli officials, but I understand also with the family of a 23-year-old Israeli American who was abducted by Hamas. What message did you bring, and what did you learn about the situation there that we might not know?
Well, the picture you just showed is of John and Rachel and their son, Hirsch Goldberg Poland, was at the music festival in the desert when Hamas attacked. He and a friend, along with dozens of others, went to a bunker, a security bunker. And think about the fact that throughout Israel, there are bomb shelters all over the country because of the frequency of rocket attacks by Hamas and Hezbollah and others. Their son, Hirsch, was in that bunker. His friend was throwing out grenades as Hamas was trying to throw them in. And the Hamas terrorist that kept tossing in grenade after grenade after grenade ultimately got past his friend, killed his friend. Hirsch had his left arm blown off. He put a tourniquet on himself, and Hirsch's father, John, showed me the video of Hamas terrorists hustling him into a van, a small cart, and driving him off towards Gaza, where they believe he's being held hostage. A part of the purpose of our bipartisan trip to Israel was to deter Iran and its proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis and others, but also to stand strongly with Israel, to press for the release of hostages by Hamas, to call for humanitarian relief for the Palestinians who are being held hostage by Hamas, and to engage with regional leaders. We met with President Sisi in Cairo and with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Riyadh to talk through what happens after this stage of the conflict with Hamas. I completely understand why the Israeli people, angry and scared after this brutal attack by Hamas, want to take the fight to Hamas as quickly and decisively as they can. But Hamas is not going anywhere. They are trapped in Gaza. They are surrounded. And we urge the Israelis to take the time to think through what is the best strategic approach to eliminate Hamas while protecting innocent civilians. And we talked to President Sisi and Crown Prince bin Salman about the possibilities for a two-state solution, ultimately a positive path forward that would invest in the Palestinians and help find enduring peace for this region. Chris, that may seem like a distant dream right now as the conflict is stepping up in Gaza, but we have to continue to keep a vision of the possibility of peace on the table at the same time that we are pressing for both humanitarian relief and to provide critically needed supplies for Israel as it takes up this fight against Hamas.
Senator Chris Coons, thank you for taking the time on what I know is always busy time on Capitol. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
That's going to do it for